Hey guys, so in today's video we will learn about Mocha. Cypress is built using the library Mocha, which is basically a feature-rich JavaScript test framework, and that's running on Node.js. So we know Cypress has adopted all the Mocha's BDD syntax. So if you want to write any test case, it will be running based on the top of Mocha only. So today we'll see different keywords and how we can write an efficient test case in Mocha. So let's just go to your Cypress project and we'll create a new file. We'll name it as mocha.cy.js. Okay, let me just open it. Yeah. So we use describe to create a test suite name in Mocha. So if you want to create a test suite and we want to pass some name to it, we'll use describe as a keyword. So inside that you can pass the name of that test suite. So this is my name of the test suite, and inside that a callback function. So if you have multiple test cases in a test suite, you use first of all you use describe for the test suite, and for the test case you use it block. So using it keyword you create a test case. So let's say this is my test case 1 under test suite 1. So I will name it as test case test suite 1, and again this is a callback function inside which you can perform all your functions. Let's say you want to launch a browser, or you want to click on any element on the page, you can do that in the it block, all the functions, all the actions on a page. Okay, so this is my test case, how I write test case in Cypress. So I will just print over here. Today I will not launch any browser or I will not perform any action on the page. I will just show you all the features of Mocha which are beneficial with respect to our test case writing in Cypress. So we'll learn everything. Okay, so we use cy.log to print the message. So we'll use test case 1. So this is my test case 1. I will just print. I just want to see how it is getting executed on the test runner. So this is how I log a message. Now I'll go to terminal. So you can go to terminal from here and click on new terminal. Just enter npx cypress open. Then it will launch Cypress, and you can select the browser and select your test case. So my test case is Mocha. So you see over here, the test suite name is the same which I passed, which is test suite 1, and the name also of the test case is test suite 1, test case 1. So so I can see the grouping. So this is my test suite name. Inside that I have test case. So this is my test case name. So this is if we have single test case. But what if we have multiple test case? In that case, what we'll do, I will just copy this one, because again it will be, we write test cases using it block only. So this is my test case 2 and test case 2. Okay, so now I have two test cases in a single describe. If I want to view, we can see over here. So you see test suite 1, and inside that we have two test cases, test case 1, test case 2. And we can also see if we perform any action on the page, it will be showing over here. But now in the test body, we are just printing the message like tc1 and tc2. We can see over here, right? This is our test body. So test body is basically whatever actions you perform inside the it block. So this is your test body. Now, if we have multiple, let's say if we have multiple test suites on the page in our test, as part of a test case, how we can do that? In that case, you can write multiple describe. So it's, yes, it is possible to write multiple describe in a single test file in Cypress. So what you have to do, we will just, for now we'll just copy this one. Okay, and maybe we will rename it. We'll just rename it for our second test suite. So you see, this is my second describe block. I will name it as test suite 2. Again, in my test case also, I will rename it so that when we run it, we should see some differentiation on the page. So now we can see we have, I will just compress it and show you. So we have two describe block. That means two test suites. Inside that we have two test case each. So this is my two test case in first test suite, and again in second test suite also I can see 2 test case. Okay. Now, if I save it and go back to my runner, I would be able to see 2 test suites and with 2 test cases. I will rerun my test case and you see over here. So this is my file name, and inside that I have 2 test suites, 1 and 2, and both have 2 test cases. Okay. And if you click on the test case, it will show you the body of the that test case file. Fine. So this is how we can write multiple test suites in single test case, in single test file. Fine. But okay, so now we learned about this one. So next thing is, if you want to run one specific test case in your file, how will you do that? So for that we use dot only keyword. So use dot only, and you have to mention it with your test case. Let's say I just want this test case to be running on the page, so I will use dot only. If you go back to your test runner, you will see there will be no log for other things, for other describe or for other test cases. You will see log only for that test case. Okay, so this is the functionality. This is basically helpful or used in the cases where you want to debug on the page. So let's say you are writing your automation script, and while writing automation script, you want to debug in parallel. Okay, that maybe you change some locator, or you are verifying the that button is available or not. There's some assertions, and you are writing. I mean, your test case creation is in progress. So for in those cases, we basically use dot only. So I will save it and we'll go back to the runner. I'll rerun it. You see, now I can't see log for any other test case and my other test suite as well. Only one test suite with one test case. Okay. But what if I want my both test cases to be running? So I want second test case to also run, but I don't want my second test suite to run. So we can also use dot only with the describe. So if we use dot only with describe, so what it does, it actually runs all the test cases in that describe, in that test suite. Okay, it will not show you the test cases for the second test suite. So if I go over here, rerun, so you see my first test suite with 2 test cases are passed, and actually I can see on the page these are executed. And over here also you can see the count, it's 2. So that means it is considering only 2 test cases for now, and it is not considering the rest of the test cases. And this is because of this only keyword. If we use only with describe or with it, it will be executing that specific block only. Okay. We'll check one more condition over here. Let's say I am passing dot only with the it block. So now I have only with my describe, and inside the describe also I'm passing only with my single test case. So we'll see what happens in this scenario. So in this scenario we will see only one test case would be running. So let's see. So see, I will rerun it. So you see only one test case would be running because we passed dot only with the it block. Okay. So yeah, this is how we perform. We run only one specific test case or one specific test suite. Okay. But what if, let's say you are running your test case, you have already created some script, and maybe in your script there is some failure, and it's not a good way to comment that whole, maybe your test body contains 10 lines or maybe 15 lines of the actions you're performing. It's not a good way to comment all those stuff. So what we do, so we use dot skip in that case. So in Mocha we have dot skip, which actually skips that test case. So in this case, this test case won't be running, and all the other test cases in this file would run. So this is highly useful when you have failure and you don't have time to debug and you want to see it later on. So instead of blocking everyone else because your test case is failing, so you can use dot skip, so that you can maybe make the changes later on, or see what is the issue, debug it later on. Okay, and for that time you can skip the test case. So let's go back to the runner and we'll see this test case won't be running, but we will still see logs for this test case. I will show you what I mean. See, you see, now my 3 test cases are executed. In my test suite, 2 test cases, and in my first test suite, 1 test case. So over here, but I can see log for test suite 1 also. But in only we couldn't see logs. We just saw only for that particular block. So in the execution status also you can see 3 passed, and this is for the skip. You see sign. So this is for the skip. This means our first test case, 1 test case is skipped and 3 are passed. So if you click over here, it will not show you anything. It will not show you the test body also because this is skipped. Again, right? And for the other test cases, if you click, you will see test body. So this is how we skip a test case. But what if I want my test suite to be skipped? I want this whole suite to be skipped. Okay. So in that case, I will use dot skip with the describe. So if we use it with describe, in that case, this whole, all the test cases inside the describe block will be skipped. So instead of, maybe you have 10 test cases, so instead of writing dot skip with each test case, you can add directly to the script, to the describe. Okay, so if you execute it, you see over here my 2 test cases got skipped, test case 1 and test case 2, and the sign also got changed. So this is the sign for skipped. You see, this one, the count is 2 and 2 got passed. These are in green color and this is gray. Okay, so this is how you skip a test case and how you skip a test suite in Mocha. Okay, so you understood it, like how we can skip and how we can execute one particular test case only. Okay, so now the next thing is hooks. So hooks are basically these are basically the functions which run before or after your test suite or individual test case. So in my test, for now what I have 2 test suites, and I want for my first test suite, before all my test cases are executed, maybe I want some particular action to be performed. Okay, so in that case what I'll do, I'll use before each. So we have before each hook, so it is executed before all of the test cases and it will perform whatever action you write over here. Let's say for now I'm just printing something, so using cy.log before each. So in this case I will see before both of my test cases I will remove skip, because otherwise we will not see on the page it is printing for both the test cases or not. Okay, so before each, if we use, it will be executed before this test case and before this test case, but not in the second describe, because I am using it inside my test suite. See, inside this, it is not used outside, so that's why it will be running for these 2 test cases. The scope would be only for this describe, not for the other test suite. So let's go back and we'll run it. So if you see over here, sorry, I added skip. I'll remove skip so that we can see this got printed. Otherwise, my test execution won't be done because of the skip. So now I rerun it. So you see over here, I will first of all, I'll compress it. This is my test suite 1, test case 1, and you see before each. So before my test case execution, it actually printed the before each. It executed before each. And similarly for test case 2 also, you will see before each, before your test body got executed. But it will not be there for test suite 2 because we added inside first test suite, inside first describe block. So you see over here, it is, we don't see before each, we just see test body. See, we have test body and we have before each, but it's not there. Okay, so now we understood the scope of before each if we write inside describe block. But what if I write it outside the describe block? In that case, it would be executed before both the test suites. So I will write over here before both test suites. So now if you see on the page, I will see this message getting printed before all my test cases. So we have to describe, it will be executed before these two, and then the sequence would be first this would be printed, and then it will go to describe, and we'll see over here, then this will be printed. So sequence also we should know. Okay, so the sequence is, I will write over here so that it's clear. Sequence is first outside describe and then inside describe. Okay, so this is my sequence. So we should know, because knowing the sequence will really help you in writing a efficient test case. Maybe you want some action to be performed before all the test suites. So you should know this. Okay, so let's go to the runner file and we'll run our test case and we'll see. So now we should be able to see before each one, which is before both test suites, and then before each two. We saw the sequence over here. So the sequence is first before test suite and then before each, which was inside the describe block. And now in this case, we should be able to see in test suite 2 also. So you see in test suite 2 also we can see before both test suites, because we passed it outside both the describe block. So this is my first, this is my, sorry, I will compress it. This is my first describe block. This is my second describe block. And this before each is actually before these two. Okay. So this was if we want to perform anything before every test case. But what if we want to perform, there can be cases where you want to perform after every test case, like a set of actions which we want to perform after every test case. So in that case, we use the hook after each. So after each is also the keyword you have to use after each, and inside that you write function. You can write perform action whatever you want. So I will write cy.log. So again, this is outside my both the describe blocks. So I will write after each outside describe, or maybe we can keep the same message both test suites. Okay, so now we will see. So with this, it will be running for both the test cases, but it will be running after your test body. Before each was executing before your test body, after each would be executing after your test body. And again, we wrote it outside, so it would be running for both. Let's see it. I'm rerunning it. So you see over here, before each test body, and then after each, right? Similarly for test case 2 also, after each is after your test body. And now because we performed it outside the describe block, it should be there for second test suite as well. So you see test body and after each after the test body. So this is how you use after each and how you can use it outside the describe block. Again, you can use it inside the describe block as well. So I will just copy it, and now I will use it for the second test suite, and inside the describe block I will write after each inside test suite 2. Okay, so now this test suite, all the test cases inside this test suite will have 2 after each, one from the outside one, global one, and one from the inside one, which is passed inside the describe block. Okay, so guys, don't get confused. The sequence is first preference is outside, which is written outside the describe block. So this is my first preference, and it is globally applied to all the describe blocks, all the test cases which are there in your file. Okay, but if you want to change the scope for particular test suite, you will write inside that test suite. Okay, we'll see now. Let's rerun the test case, and after each, so this after each is basically printing before both the test suites, and you will see in the second test suite you will see after each inside the test suite. Again, the sequence over here for the after each changes. Before each was, so in case of before each, this is the sequence. But in case of after each, the sequence is first inside the describe block and then outside the describe block. So you see the preference? See, inside the test scenario and after both test suites. So you can see it's inside it and then outside it. I will just type the message over here, outside. So we can, it is better this way. Inside and outside, okay? So the sequence of before each and after each is slightly different. You should know the sequence, right? Okay, so now we saw how we can write before each, after each, inside the block and outside the describe block. Now we have next hook, which is before hook. So if you use before, so before is basically executed before your first test case in the test file. So if you use before, it will be running before my first test case. My first test case means first test case from the first test suite. It will not refer to first test case from second test suite. So whatever first test case it founds on the page, so it will refer to that. So I will print over here before all, before first test case. Although this is defined outside the describe block, this is defined outside both the describe blocks, but again it will be running for first test case only. I'll show you. So we will rerun it. So you see over here, before all, before each, before each. Okay, and in my second test suite, you will not see before all. Similarly for second test case also. So before all would be executed before my first test case only. And the preference is, so this is my top preference. So if we have before each and before all in a test case, so first preference would be given to before all, and then the second would be before each. Okay. So this is how I define before. So there are some cases, maybe you want to get some JWT token, and before performing all your API, if we see API test case, or if you want to get the login user and using some JWT token, you can maybe get JWT token in that before block and use it. So it will be required only once, right? So in that case, you can use before. We have one more hook, which is after. So after is basically after your last test case. So before was before my first test case, and this would be after your last test case. So again, I will print cy.log and after last test case. Yes. So let's see. So now I would be seeing after this message, after my last test case, which is inside second suite, this one. So over here I should be seeing. Let's rerun our test case and see it. So if we see first one, I see before all, before each, test body, after each I can see. But after all, see, after all, I can't see in test case 2 also, right? And now we see test case 1 from test suite 2. So inside here also I won't see, because this is again not my last test case in the page, in that file. So this is my last test case. Over here I should be seeing after all. So you see after all. So after all is executed after everything is performed. After each, after test body, you will see after all. Okay. So this is the basically, this is the sequence. If we go check the sequence, first is before all, before each, after each, test body, after each, and then after all. Okay, so we should know the sequence. Again, it is, maybe it can be asked in an interview question, or in your project also, if you want to maybe write some DB reset. So that where should you use that DB reset, in after each or in after all? So you should know all the hooks, because it will help you writing in good test case and efficient one, and how you can optimize code, how you can maybe copy, if there is some common code which you are using in every test case, you can maybe pass that in before each. You don't need to run that, copy that line again and again, right? You can write in before each, maybe that launching of browser, you're launching browser for every test case, so you can directly pass under before each, because it will again, you are optimizing the code, you are not writing your same line of code in every test case, you're just passing it over here. Okay.
I hope this is clear to you. And if you like the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be uploading more videos on Cypress in the upcoming days. I'm using the latest version of Cypress, so all the videos would be with respect to the latest version. The configuration, everything would be there. So just stay tuned and subscribe so you don't miss any notifications.